Alrighty, it's 15 hours and 52 minutes into the day of Thursday, August 23rd, 2012, and this is the first segment of this episode of BigBangTheoryRL. Just starting my day, just got up, maybe about a half hour ago, did some milling around. I don't shoot right out of bed because my mind just isn't there at that time. What happens, and this is sort of, if we want to talk about the physiology of dreams and sleep, it takes about, once you wake up, it takes about a half hour for the grogginess. That's the remainder of the chemical that puts the body to sleep. It takes about a half hour for that chemical to really sometimes drain out of the body. In many ways, your calisthenics, we'll call it your morning exercises, is actually to get the blood flowing, really to get the that chemical out of the brain. I'm saying that chemical right now. I name it, but I've kind of forgotten it. Sometimes you, as much as you study, you forget things, and that's sort of what's happened here. And I will go back over this. I think I'm going to, in consideration of the PBS documentary on Nova on what is dreams, since this is a more recurring topic, and I am doing research in this, and it comes right out of my sleep. I think this is going to be part of our regular discussions here. So, for now anyways. That being said, I've forgotten what the chemical is. It is a neurochemical that sort of basically paralyzes the body. As you begin to move around, that slowly drains out of the system. And I've got some interesting video footage. I'm going to be doing more footage, hopefully get more footage. It's of a squirrel that lives in an air conditioner a couple doors down. And if you get up early enough in the morning, or you stay up late enough at night so that you can see the squirrel come out, what ends up happening is the squirrel ends up sitting, comes out of its place where it sleeps for the night, comes out, and this sort of sits outside on its, I guess what you would call its front porch, and it just sort of sits there and relaxes a little bit, stretches, absorbs the sun. It's in a very, you can tell that it's still in its first state of awakening, that the chemical hasn't cleared out of its body, the sleep chemical hasn't cleared out of its body, and it's still kind of rigid from sleep, and that's what it's trying to sort of get rid of, and just sort of sits there and, absorbs some of the sun in order to get warm, because it stretches itself out as much as possible to absorb the sun. And the morning sun, if everyone's been out in the morning, the sun, if you're aware of how cold sometimes it gets kind of cold at night, or cool at night, and then when you have the morning sun, the dawn sun, it's quite a warming feeling to actually have it come in and sit on your body and absorb it. So this is part of the morning routine that the squirrel has. And I'm going to start trying to film more and more of the squirrel, because I actually ended up getting some really interesting footage of it in terms of its behavior. So I'm going to sort of work on that further and then go from there. Yeah, so I just woke up, and like usual, the dreams were typical of what I had done the day before. And they sort of, what happens is the dreams, in terms of their representation, it's more about the feeling. And as my feeling change, so do the dreams. And so one can sort of relate a large chunk of what your dreams are, in terms of the answer, as part of your emotions. They're how you emotionally perceive the day. So dreams are not specifically intellectual as much as they are emotional. So that's sort of one perspective that you can actually put on the dream to see what your dreams are like. How do you feel during it? Are your emotions more powerful than the intellect in the dream? And then you can go into other things like lucid dreaming. Are you aware of that you are in fact dreaming? And then if you are aware of what you're dreaming, and this is sort of to clarify things, if you are aware that you can do lucid dreaming, can you then go in and start to control your dreams, even to a certain degree? And that's sort of where the next state lies in terms of exploring the dreams. Is that, and again, this is from not from the standard, what they call the standard scientific approach, where you have everything is experimental. It's more from the astronomical side of things, where things are beyond your ability to directly experiment on, and all you have is observation. And when you have observation, it is possible to put together a good enough observation, as we see in astronomy, that you can indeed push things forward. And I'll give you this argument here for observational science. It's in the observational science of astronomy and physics that gave us all the technology that we have today. None of this stuff that we have in our technology was simply predictable in the standard scientific form, in the standard scientific method, in the standard scientific expectation. Most technology, everything that we have today, was outside of the standard scientific prediction. In other words, events occurred within the scientific history that altered scientific history from outside scientific thought, that fundamentally altered scientific thought, or should have altered scientific thought. But it's being ignored today, and right now we're going back into the standard scientific thought, that scientific thought is absolute, it's primo, it's premier, it's the everything needs to be subjected to this, and this is not the case. And this is not, scientific reality has never actually shown this. So scientific history actually contradicts scientific thought. So this is something that you need to remember when someone says, "Oh, this is not scientific." So this is where science is now. This is where we are in this research here, and you'll see as we go on that things will appear to be proven out as we talk about this. And even if they're not proven out, it doesn't necessarily matter if they're proven out, because they're observations anyways, and there's no way that science can prove everything. And then if you talk about quantum physics, where things are basically a series of probabilities, then there's nothing to prove, particularly if you're talking about the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. If the Heisenberg uncertainty principle applies across the board, not simply to atomic physics or particle physics, then one can say that there is no true absolute, only approximations, and therefore there's no real scientific proof. You can never have scientific proof because of the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. So this is the question I leave you guys with: is the Heisenberg uncertainty principle universal? Does it apply across the board, even outside of its domain in particle physics, or is it something specific to particle physics? And is there such a thing as scientific proof? Alright, I'll leave you. It's about 18 hours and 32 minutes into the day of August 23rd. And it's been pretty much so far doing a lot of reorganization work, trying to add in some new stuff to the schedule. Going to be changing up a little bit, adding in more, not really changing up, but adding in more content to BigBangTheoryRL. As I said, we're going into the reality format, the reality show format, as you see in the title. We're going to keep that format for now. I'm going to try it out. We're going to do as much as we can to see if we can get that format to work on a regular basis. So that means a lot of reorganization has to be done here in order to keep the filming and the work flowing at a proper pace. So this sort of reorganizing my notes, reorganizing how I do things, that happens every once in a while anyway, so it's not really too much of a burden. It's just, you know, what it is. So yeah, I'm going to be going out in just about 15 minutes. I'll be leaving to church for Kinesis, and then I'll be back, and I'll talk to you later after that. I'll give you a shout. I'll probably do another segment when I get back. Alright, take it easy. Yeah, it's about, what was it, 3:30 in the morning. I just finished editing the latest episode of BigBangTheoryRL. That's the August 22nd episode. That should be up soon. As soon as it finishes its rendering in about an hour. It's time to put it up. It'll take another hour to upload. Yeah. So basically, from the time you do your editing until you get fully up on the internet, it's about a 2-hour stretch. Add another 45 minutes in for editing, and you're looking at a 3-hour chunk. So I am getting better at the editing process. I'm getting more used to it. I can deal with issues that I wasn't able to do before. I think that what's going to happen with Kdenlive and doing a lot of the stuff in terms of the various different graphics, effects, and features, I'm going to have to sort of film it out first and do everything manually, and then design plugins that will actually do that will automate the effects process. So in other words, I have to develop out the process first, do it step by step. Then once I have that step-by-step process done, then go in and start programming it as a plugin into Kdenlive. So that's where I think things will actually have to sort of work themselves out. But that's sort of a process, and it's going to come along. I found that the error that I was running into that caused that glitch at the end seemed to be something, depending on how you click and drag your clips in Kdenlive, it causes an error where the clip becomes infinitely small and can't be deleted from the timeline, and you have to redo the master file. So that's what I did, redoing the master file. I redid it, cleared everything out. There's no error in there. And what I'm doing now is, just in case at some point in time the file does become corrupt, I'm now sort of sequencing out when I save and back up. And here's the kicker. You really can't have, for this situation here, you can't have a timed or automatic backup, because let's say the error occurs slightly before the automatic backup, and all of a sudden the computer does what it's supposed to do, the program does what it's supposed to do, automatically backs up. Then you back up the error. You can't go backwards to the previous instance of the file. So basically, what you want to do is you want to always have a good copy of what you're working on saved, and you don't want to save any of the errors that may crop up later on. So that means you cannot have an automatic backup. This means that you actually have to plan out a series or a procedure of backing up, and when you're going to back up after, how many ever steps of work that you're doing. And for me, because it's very simple, you're simply clicking on the save button. So every time I add in a clip or adjust a clip, I do a save. So in other words, everything that I consider to be major, I click save, and that brings me forward to the next step. So it's an automatic thing in terms of the way I'm used to it now, in terms of my own development, but it's not automatic because the computer does it. So yeah, I'm going to add in be adding in more regular clips. Every segment is going to be a little different. The next segment that's going to come up is going to be on booktubing and booktubes. I should say booktubers. Yeah, and that is basically, there are a number of people who are into books on YouTube, and they've sort of formed a booktube community. So I'll talk about that in the next segment. So I'll see you in a few minutes. Alrighty, here we are. It's just about 10 to 5 in the morning. Yeah, it's 4:48 in the morning. Gonna be another very long night. Probably finishing anytime before 7 a.m. And that's just typically the way things go. But let's move on. And why we're here for the next segment is gonna talk about books. There is a wonderful section of YouTube known as BookTube or BookTubers, because these people who are part of this YouTube community who love books, they like reading books, and they talk about books, and so they're called BookTubers. And their section of the YouTube community is called BookTube, and I have one particular BookTube. Relationship that, while I do like reading, most of the people who are in BookTube are primarily what I call literary nerds, where their primary interest in the books they read have to do with literature. My primary area of BookTube, for me, is physics and science. So this is one of the books that I like reading. It's Introduction to Quantum Mechanics. While a large chunk of people, when you have a magazine rack or so on and so forth in the bathroom, you go into somebody's bathroom and you see maybe magazines or something like that to read beside the bathroom. So as you're doing your business, you can peruse through something. Most of them have house magazines or this magazine or that magazine. I decided that I had enough room in my bathroom that rather than having a magazine rack, I put an entire bookshelf in there, and in the bathroom there is organic chemistry, advanced calculus, introduction to algorithms, and other books of that sort of nature. So these are what I consider my normal and usual read. So while other people are reading about fashion, I'm looking at the chemical structure, or the atomic structure of hydrocarbon atoms, or I should say hydrocarbon molecules. So that's the way I go with things, and I do have some books that I read that are sort of along the literary lines. Some of my favorite books. This is one of my favorite books here. As I mentioned before, I like dictionaries. This is an old dictionary. I like old dictionaries. I like not only old dictionaries, but I like old books in general. Some of the other stuff that I read that I like. These are my notes. I have here, this is where I do a lot of my reading, and I'm filming actually some of the documentaries back here. One of the documentaries that I'm filming is about words in the dictionary and how they change historically. So that's one of the one of the reasons why I have this book here. Other type of books that I like, biographies written by people who I consider to be influential. I mean, one of the people who I think I really like a lot was Winston Churchill. This was a very nice read for me. I really did enjoy this. And as I was watching the World War II documentaries, after reading this, and this is Winston Churchill's account of everything, you gain a whole new perspective for things. So, as you read things, as you encounter people, new perspectives come into play, and it really makes things, really amazing. So, let's do something for BookTube now. Since we're in the BookTube mood, we're going to do this. And this is a tag. It's the 7 Deadly Sins tag from the BookTube community. And this is, I got it from Hey Hey Books. I'll leave her link in the down below bar.
Hi guys. So pretty much every booktuber I watch has done this tag. It's originally created by Bookishly Eliza, and I finally got around to figuring out what on earth all of my answers would be. I think these are definitely really interesting questions and a great way to get to know each other. If for some reason you haven't seen this tag already, it's basically adapted from the beauty community, and it's about the 7 sins of reading. So there are questions based on each sin. The first sin is greed. The question is...
Okay, so that's her description of it. It was her tag, and she sort of sends this out to all the to everyone in the BookTube community who are subscribe to her or watch her video, that they should do the same tag. And I said, well, yeah, okay, yeah. And this was before I had set up the reality show format that we're doing now. This is a couple days earlier. But I had put it in my to-do list, but never really got around to doing it, so I'm doing it now. It's not that old though. It's well, yeah, it's a little old. It's from June 9th. So, but I didn't see this one. I didn't get around to seeing it or finding her channel until much later on. So, oh yeah. So, let's begin here. Now, as I mentioned before, my BookTube experience is significantly different from the average BookTuber. I am more primarily into the sciences, and I've gotten to the point now where the number of books I have is no longer saying I have books and I read. I actually have an entire library, and I live basically inside my library. So I'm one of those geeks, those science geeks who, those weird professors who live inside the library stacks, but they're very rarely seen, and they sort of scurry around like rats in the library. And that's where it is. I'm kind of library rat, however you want to put it. That's the way I am. So let's begin with greed. And it says here, what are your most expensive and least expensive books? And what I have to say for this is that I think the most expensive books I ever bought was when I was at university. And that was doing my undergrad work. It was more than 20 years ago. And the university textbooks were rather expensive. They were like $80 a book. The least expensive books, I go to a lot of closeouts. And even get books that libraries have thrown away. I had a friend many years ago who has since passed away. He was a schizophrenic, and he introduced me to something called dumpster diving. And this is where you go to the side of the road, and if there's some interesting trash that people have thrown out, and people do throw out amazing stuff, you pick it up, you fix it up if it needs to be fixed up, and you reuse it again. Well, he had his forte in dumpster diving was going and looking for books that were thrown out and taking them and give them a nice new home. And so he started giving me books because he knew I was into sciences, I was into reading, and I liked my library. So he started getting me books from the dumpster. And I got actually a lot of really nice books from there. And so I started doing the same thing. I started looking at bookstores that were closing down, that were liquidating things, schools that maybe had shut down, or maybe they were getting rid of their old school, the library books. I got I have a lot of those. And then you find a lot of stuff. Later on, I found a lot of stuff online. And now, as my library increases, there is also access to the research university libraries. A lot of their stuff is now online. So basically, what I do here on a daily basis is basically grow out my library and try to increase the size of my library. So now it's no longer about the book or the most and least expensive book. It's about the equipment that actually I can build a library on top of. So myself, I'm building a library. And I have a good sized library now. I have about 100,000 books, particularly electronic books, in my library now. My library is large enough that it actually has sections to the library. And this is what I'm doing, is I'm growing out my library. The next area that I'm working on for the outgrowth of my library is in the Byzantine Antiquity Studies. That's the area that I'm actually going to be doing my sort of pushing out my library to next. And this will be interesting, going into museums, going into archaeology, and sort of attaching my library to their library, linking it through the computer system. So, Wrath. Which author do you have a love-hate relationship with? Well, I've gone way past the book stage where I have a love-hate relationship with any particular author. The author that I love, and sort of that has been very influential for me, myself, was initially Edgar Allan Poe. But then as I started reading the Victorian women's authors, and this is Jane Austen, the Bronte sisters, and the likes, I actually started getting into those books as well, and I think I like them as much as I like Edgar Allan Poe. So, but there are slight. The difference in styles is that there is a difference between how the genders write. I think when a woman writes, and these women were amazing writers, they really took the level of penmanship and being an author up to a whole new form. And I find myself more influenced by the Victorian authors when I write. I'm now doing a lot of writing myself. I'm more influenced by the Victorian women's authors than I am by Edgar Allan Poe. I like Edgar Allan Poe's descriptive style, but I really like the approach that a lot of these Victorian women have taken towards their writing career. So that kind of describes my love-hate relationship with an author or with authors. Is that it's not one particular author; it's a whole variety of things now, rather than being one simple thing. So on to the third sin, glutton. Which book can you read over and over again? Well, as I said, I read the dictionary a lot, and I do sit down and read the dictionary. I'm one of the few people who do sit down and read the dictionary. So I think if there's one book that I could read over and over again, it is the dictionary. Then other books that I can read over and over again would be any of the Victorian women's author, Edgar Allan Poe, stuff like that. Then I have some other books here. I actually have children's books that were written back in the 1800s, and those are interesting reads as well. They're very interesting reads. So, and I do occasionally go back and reread them again. Of course, one of the books I've been rereading a lot lately is my organic chemistry books. and because you have to go over and over them again to go back and try to understand different things, different aspects, and so on and so forth. So, I said, in terms of gluttony, the amount of books I read is being the fact that I'm in a library and live in a library, that sort of explains it all. Sloth. Which book have you neglected neglected due to laziness? Well, there's no real laziness here. There's so much to read and so much to do in order to build my library up that if anyone sort of, as yourself as a witness, I said it's 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm doing this now, I'm not going to be finishing until around 7. This is the way I work in my library. It's always pushing out, always finding new territories, always finding new boundaries. So there is no real laziness. There is times when where the fatigue hits me like a bag of bricks, and I get knocked out. But laziness, not necessarily. Pride. Which book do you talk about seem most intelligent? In other words, there are these people that if you meet them at parties, then these I guess you would call them a soiree, because they're more sophisticated parties and not the party type of party. And they will talk about the books they read, and there's just a general attitude. I'm not that type of professor, that type of scientific researcher. I am not the turtleneck tweed jacket professor or scientist or academic. As I said, I'm more of a library rat type of professor and academic. I live in the library. I don't really go out that much in terms of parties and parties and the like. So there really isn't an opportunity for me to stand and go, well, I really like this particular book. It was really the quintessential, and the rest of the description. I can't do that. That's not me. I tried to be that person, but it didn't. It lasted less than a week, and it was gone. What happens more often than not is that I'm the type of person that kind of annoys the person who has that particular pride. Which book do you use to sound most intelligent with when you speak? Talk about at the party like that. Because what happens is that more often than not, I've gone through it, and I've gone through it in a way that they really haven't explored the book. They've read it, but they haven't explored the book. And I'm the type of person, when I read and enjoy a particular author, I enjoy exploring the author and the book itself. And to give an example, well, I'm not going to give you an example because that will end up taking too long. This will sort of give you an idea of what ends up happening when I end up in a conversation with people and someone ends up doing what Prime is supposed to do. It's more often than not either a shut up Daniel or not another explanation. The easiest way I can explain this is go to the Disney show Ant Farm, and there's a character there named Olive, and she comes up as they're in conversation with these interesting factoids. These are different facts on the conversation or different things they're talking about. And as soon as she comes up with the term interesting factoid, and that's her interjection into the conversation, what you will see collectively from the group is the collective eye roll and a sigh, not again. They don't necessarily directly put her off, but there's also that sort of feeling that this is not for them, not their cup of tea. And I'm a lot like Olive. And the reaction to people in terms of the way I go into detail about things, that's the kind of reaction that I get. So, you know. So number 6, lust. What do you find most attractive in a main character? Well, I don't necessarily consider it lust for myself because, well, most guys are into hotness and so on and so forth, and a lot of the, let's call it the Freudian implications that go along with it. That's not my bailiwick. Let's put it this way. I'm into primarily cuteness. See, the thing is, I've never been the cute guy. That's the thing. I'm not the cute guy. I've always been, oh, he's got a nice personality. He's, you know, a funny guy. He's intelligent. But I've never been the cute guy. And I've been around cute guys, and you can see if you're an observant person, you can see the interaction and reaction of girls to the cute guy and to yourself. And once you start seeing that over and over again on a repeated basis, you kind of get the idea that you're not the cute guy. And at some point in time, you've got to come to terms with it and say, okay, yeah, that's who I am, and just, you know, sort of go on your merry old way and live your life. So for me though, you try that whole line about the hot girl, and it never seems to work out for me. My past experience with girls is that, and this is where the guys who gave me advice on how to pick up girls, Daniel, you're too friendly. You can't talk to them. You can't be their friend. And that's typically what happens to me. Is every time my meeting a girl starts with hello, and basically an hour and a half later into the conversation, I've completely forgotten about picking them up. So that's how things go for me. In terms of lust, finding attractive in a character, my attractiveness in a character is not along the Freudian line. It's more along the line of who would I want to sit down on the couch with and just sort of hang out with. And the ones that I kind of gravitate towards, I don't really like the hot girls. Because I've met hot girls. They've got nothing to say. The girls I like hanging out with are the guys, I guess you'd call them geek girls. One example would be if you go to Zoe 101, the show on Nickelodeon. There was a show a couple of years ago called Zoe 101. Everyone was sort of raving about the main character Zoe, who was played by Jamie Lynn Spears. That was Britney Spears' sister. She was supposed to be the hot one in the show, and blah 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 blah. But that wasn't where my focus was. My focus was on the nerdy character Quinn. And that's where my interests lie. I seem to gravitate more towards the geeks, the nerds, the freaks, and so on and so forth, than I do the attractive, or what they call the hot girl. So it's not a matter of just simply being blonde and hot. It's more about the personality and the uniqueness of the personality that seems to sort of get my attention. Let's see, the last one, 7, Envy. Which book would you like as a gift? How about the entire Gutenberg collection? Is that too much to ask for? So that's the end of the 7 Deadly Sins. And the one thing I like to point out, because we are on BookTube and this is about geekism, there is no such thing as 7 Deadly Sins. That was from Thomas Aquinas. And if you go into the Gospel, you will find out directly from the Gospel that all sins are forgivable. That's a little bit from the Byzantine section of of my library. So yeah, that's about it. I think I've exhausted most of the time for today. We are going to be making with BookTube here, this BookTube section. We're going to definitely make the 30-minute section, so the 30-minute time. That's about it. I think I may say goodbye tonight, or sure, good night tonight, but I'm pretty sure this is going to be it for today. Alright, so see you in the next episode. Alright, take it easy.
Welcome to the library, and I am the librarian.
I am the professor. And professor of what? Professor of physics.
Free speech rules here at Democratic Earth.